Okay, so yesterday I did a video on Mealprep 101. It's the second version, let's say it like that. And my first levels were quite nice, but I got really stuck on level 7 and I found a solution in the end, but it was not really a good one. So I was thinking about it a little bit more and I have two more solutions now. So again, we have like our data are meals with some I call them macros. So we have the amount and fat, protein, carbohydrates. We know that when you eat something, not all of those calories get absorbed. Some are already burned while actually absorbing them. Then we have some activities which burn calories, but the longer you are awake, the less effective or efficient the activity is. So when I'm doing a mindful exercise activity at the beginning of the day, I burn more calories than when I do it at the end of the day because I'm already quite awake and my körper starts my efficient mode, let's say it like that. So I already prepared it because this took a while for me because I'm still not doing too good, but yesterday's solution looked like that. So we add a column to our normal source. So our source was just pretty much the level input. So I have the meal, I have the amount, I think, I have the wake time, and I have the activity. So this meal pretty much decides how many calories we have absorbed. The amount, of course, multiplies it. So that means if I have it per gram, I can multiply it. Then the activity time, the wake time is for the factor for the actual calories burned by the activity. So the whole magic, if you want to call it like that, was that in table add column, I use each. With each, I can then use just normal column references as identifier. So the first abs is the absorbed calories. So I do a lookup on the meal, get the calories absorbed, multiply it by the amount. Activity is just a lookup. Here I generated a list, which of course is quite intense if I just create a list from my starting point and always up to 4,000 items larger, even if I don't need them. That is not a good solution. Afterwards, after I created it, I transform it, where I pretty much say for each of it, filter the timing table and take the last item. This is, I assume at least, the most expensive step. And afterwards, I use list accumulator, uh, a list.accumulate with this list, and I use a record as a starting value. So if it is a record, then I want to actually continue something else, just keep it, because what I do is I have my start, which is just the adjusted record. So I take one more step and I add my calories to my running total, let's say it like that. And afterwards, I check if my calories, the current ones, are um, larger than the absorbed values, then I only want to step, otherwise I get the record. Meaning in the next thing, if I return this, it's not a record anymore, so my if is false, and I return X. So this is pretty much like when you use a reduce and you have an escape that you then don't do the calculation again, but just keeps the calculated value. But this is quite slow, so if I'm trying to refresh it, I already buffered the timing table, so that took a while. So second idea I had was, well, technically I had a different idea, but I have not tried that. So instead of doing this and I'm always filtering it, I could just create a table for all of the times pretty much once. So let's say I create 1 to 10,000 minutes as a table and then I get the factor for it. Then I could just take the values which are relevant for it. I don't have to calculate it again for each step. So I only filter once and just take the table. So I create a table for all of the values, drop the first ones which are not applicable because my wake up time um, is larger than my time in the table, and then I have already this list done without a lot of calculation. I only calculated once for all of the levels, not individually for each of the levels. Um, but I didn't do that. So next idea I had was to use, well, in this case it's recursion. Um, so I would say list.accumulate is more like the reduce approach, and the recursion is if you actually do use recursion. So what I did was, again, same stuff. I created a list with 4000 elements. Then I again do this filter, which is of course still not very efficient. And here then I multiply it by the actual, and now I wanted to have a well, more or less a running total, but I don't really care about all steps. I only need the step and the actual calories. So what I did was I created a function called calc with two inputs, and if my y, which is the accumulated value, is larger than my absorbed calories, then return the step, which is n, else at is for the recursive, I would say it's an operator. So it's a recursive operator for calc so that it knows it's calling itself with the next step, and then I'm just doing the accumulated amount, so y plus the actual element in my fact list. I could also, no, that's fine. And then I call it, and after calling it, we're done. So if I refresh that, it is a little bit faster, but it's still not instant. So I think if I have a lot of rows, it's still not nice because I have to again create for each of the values a list about 4000 rows, or a list with 4000 items, even though only one item is above 3000. So the majority are even below 1000. So that is not a good solution as well. And afterwards I thought, well, what I'm doing is I'm doing a list generate where I just add one, right? So as long as it is, well, it's always 4000 items long, but pretty much what I do is I start from wake time to wake time plus 4000. I create a list, and I don't need to do that. Like, I could also try to create a list with directly the amount of calories which are absorbed per step, and that's what I did here. So it's again the same, and now here the list generate, like, my issue here was it took a while for me to get that right, is um, in the beginning I said I had column 3 here. So let's just go duplicate this. And my biggest mistake was I did it like this, so I don't care about start. So, and it works. Why? Why does it work? Huh? Okay, I have to think about that. I thought it didn't work because of scope, but apparently it does work. Okay, but here's my start. So I have column 3, which is a wake time, and then I generate a list again with the starting value has to be a function. So I call it as a function, but without parameters, and I start with a record. In this case, I have 3 values. Technically, I could do it with 2, but I did it with 3. Then my condition is as long as E, which is supposed to be the accumulated calories, is less than ABS, and then I create the function. So I take a step for the, I take +1 for the start, which is my wake time, so that I then take the next time. I take +1 for the step, which is M, and here I then do the total. So again, I filter where my wake time is less than my current time, and I take the last value for it. So that's the factor. I multiply it with my activity so that I get it and I can add it out. And now this finishes as soon as this is not true anymore. And now I just take the rows pretty much, because if I do minute, I get a list, and each list contains a record, so we can look at it. It's just my starting wake time, 0 steps, 0 calories, 0, yes, that's right. And now I have wake time +1. I have 1 step, and I have those many calories absorbed, and this continues. And since I start with 0, 0, I can then just count the rows, so list.count, because I'm stopping before it reaches ABS, but I have the 0 line included. So that is a solution which is quite fast. So if I'm doing it, yeah, you can see it's more or less instantly. I thought I had an issue with scope here, so that didn't work. But what also should work is if I don't have two things which I'm just adding. So it should be fine if I say I don't need, let's try it like that. So I do this, E is okay, C is okay. I don't need M, but what I need is I need C plus, and now I'm not sure if column 3 works, but let's see. Yeah, so because I don't need to have a record with 3 elements to, again, I'm not sure if that's more efficient or not, but technically the count, I had 2 values which I just added 1, 2 for each iteration, right? So I have those 2, and technically it's not necessary because one starts with 0, the other starts with my value in column 3, but I can just add it here as well. So I don't need to have 2 items per record, so I'm not sure which one is more efficient. But those were the solutions I came up with now, and I have to think about why the scope now works, but you have to be careful if you are inside the each. Now I'm using a let, and I can't use each again. That's why I always use the X here, and later I use Y, for example, so that it's always clear where the scope is. I need to think about that a little bit more, but for now, this is my solution. So please tell me if you have a better idea on how to do it, if you have a more efficient idea. But this is what I came up with. So thanks for watching and have a nice day.